This is the News 8 Update.
We don't charge people with capital murder without being very sure of ourselves.
A Rowlett woman is charged with stabbing her 2 young sons to death.
If she did, then this was definitely not the Darlie that we know and everybody else knows.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. Channel 8 News has learned that shortly after arriving on the crime scene 2 weeks ago, detectives suspected that someone inside that house in Rowlett had killed the little boys.
Nevertheless, parallel investigations pursued Darlie Routier's reports of a knife-wielding intruder and the inconsistencies in her story. Tonight, she has been charged with 2 counts of capital murder. Channel 8's Robert Riggs joins us with more on how police say they solved the case. Robert?
John and Chip, evidence at the crime scene told one story. Darlie Routier's account of that deadly night was a far cry different. Police say it was a vicious, planned attack in which the mother allegedly stabbed her children to death and spun a tale to cover it up. 26-year-old Darlie Routier is under a suicide watch in her Dallas County jail cell. Rowlett police and an arrest warrant for capital murder say her lack of concern for her dying sons and inconsistent statements point to Routier's guilt. Investigators believe that Routier's story that she slept through the deadly stabbings of 6-year-old Devon and 5-year-old Damon, who were just a few feet away, and slept through multiple cuts inflicted upon herself is incredible.
We're expecting a lot of controversy. You know this is a significant case as well as we do. We're convinced and confident in our case, and at trial will be where it's proven.
Routier's 911 call at 2:31 in the morning of June 6th and her unusual behavior immediately raised suspicion. She told the 911 dispatcher that they had just broken in and stabbed me and my children in the first floor den where they were asleep. She later changed the story to a lone assailant. The arrest warrant states that despite the emergency, Routier never made attempts to stop their bleeding, touch them, or render other first aid. Instead, she was preoccupied with a minor wound on her neck.
And we were in a difficult situation, trying to reassure a quiet, peaceful community here that we didn't have a psychopathic murderer walking the street, but at the same time not jeopardize this case.
Investigators say a window screen was cut to make it look like the killer broke in. They found a knife inside the Routier's kitchen used to cut the screen. A second butcher knife from the kitchen was used to inflict many powerful stab wounds into the chest and back of the little boys. Routier told police she was stabbed on the couch, but there was no appreciable blood there. Police believe Routier slashed her own throat in the kitchen. Routier claims she chased the assailant through the kitchen, but only her bloody bare footprints were found, no trace of an intruder. Routier told police the killer dropped the knife in the utility room, but there were no bloodstains there. When the 911 dispatcher told Routier not to touch the knife, she responded, "I already touched it and picked it up," and later said, "I wonder if we could have gotten the prints, maybe."
It has stuff on there that only the people involved know about, and I think it's some important evidence on that tape, things that are said.
43 seconds into the 911 call, Routier told police her husband Darren just ran downstairs, but she never asked about the safety of her 8-month-old baby boy who was sleeping upstairs with his father. Their home remained unoccupied for the past 2 weeks as investigators stripped the interior for evidence. Their computer business, which tests circuit boards, appears to have been shut down for some time. The Routier's home phone still answers with an eerie message.
Don't believe everything that the media is saying. I mean, the closest thing that they've got is the information that we've given them.
Police say Routier's husband is not a suspect. Her court-appointed attorney has not returned our frequent calls today. Chip, John.
Robert, a couple of questions a lot of folks are asking about. Is there a motive in this case, and then where does the investigation go from here?
Well, investigators say there was a $5,000 life insurance policy on the boys, but have ruled that out as a motive. They are looking at the possibility of past psychological problems and marital discord. And DNA testing is continuing on blood samples to further pinpoint the trail left by Darlie Routier through the house. And investigators tell me that one of the reasons Rowlett solved this case relatively quickly, were able to crack it, is they put aside their egos and they solicited the top expertise from departments across the metropolitan area.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rob.
This is the News 8 Update.
If I'm put to death, I'll leave this world with a free conscience.
Oh, I'm just a little tired of seeing the same old Darlie, saying the same old things.
Prosecutors react to this evening's network interview with Darlie Routier as they show us the evidence that they used to convince a jury She was responsible for the stabbing death of her 5-year-old son.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This was Routier's first nationwide television interview. Reporter Robert Riggs has reaction. Robert?
John and Tracy, the Dallas district attorneys are angry tonight with the characterization we just saw on Primetime Live of Darlie Routier as the all-American mom. Prosecutors say the brutality of the murder, captured in crime scene photographs, document a trail of evidence that proves Routier committed the crime. Tonight, evidence you've never seen before.
I was a normal person.
On Texas death row for women, Darlie Routier hopes her family can raise up to $50,000 to put her under hypnosis. Routier believes the trance could conjure up a better description of the man she claims stabbed her sons to death and cut her throat. But in these first ever released crime scene photos from Routier's murder trial, prosecutors say all of the evidence points to an inside job.
If I would have just died with my children that night, it would have spared a lot of pain. But then I also think that if I would have died that night, that my husband would be sitting where I'm at right now.
She tries to portray herself as kind of June Cleaver. And, June Cleaver, she's not.
Police found most of the Routier's home picture perfect on the night of the murders. A wedding gown was draped over a chair for the Routiers to renew their vows. An FBI crime scene analyst noted there was little property damage for such extraordinary human devastation. Despite Routier's story of a violent struggle in the family room, a glass tabletop and flower pot is only tilted sideways.
If you are to believe Darlie Routier is not guilty of this crime, you have to believe she slept through her son 1 foot from her being murdered, her other son 4 feet from her being murdered, and I guess her sleeping through having her own throat cut and not waking up.
Investigators say it's a textbook case of staging, down to Routier superficially cutting her neck. This knife from the Routier's own kitchen was used for the deep penetrating wounds into the boys. Investigators found blood from both boys splattered on the front right shoulder of Routier's blouse, consistent, they say, with blood being slung each time Routier raised the knife to stab.
I know the truth. I know what really happened. If I'm put to death, I'll leave this world with a free conscience.
Gold jewelry and a Rolex watch were openly missed by the intruder. Routier says he fled through the adjoining kitchen, but only a single wine glass was broken from brushing against a fragile rack full, and Routier's blood was under the broken glass. A vacuum cleaner also appeared knocked over, but Routier's blood dropped on it while it was still upright, and the floor beneath it is spotted with Routier's blood and her barefoot prints. The intruder supposedly cut open a window screen from outside into the garage, but a bread knife was found in the Routier's kitchen butcher block with fragments of the fiberglass screen on its blade. This microscopic look shows a strand on the left from the screen matches the one on the right found stuck to the knife.
We had a good case. The police department, 2 crime labs, 3 consultants, DA's office, grand jury, FBI. We didn't consult and say, let's get Darlie. It's harder to prove somebody in the house, family did it, than it is an intruder, and there was no intruder.
Jim CRON, a veteran of more than 4,000 crime scenes with bodies, says dozens of pieces of evidence contradicted Routier's story. But Routier's husband says his wife is resting well on death row.
And she can sleep at night. You know, she can sleep because she knows the truth. It doesn't affect her in that way.
Prosecutors didn't have to prove a motive, but they say Routier's obsession with her appearance, material things, money problems, depression, and suicide may explain why she snapped. John?
Well, Robert, I understand that the lender foreclosed on the house. Whatever happened?
Well, the house will soon go on the auction block. The realtor says there's been a surprising number of interested buyers even before the house has gone on the market. During the last 2 months, it has been painted, new carpeting has been installed, and new light fixtures hung. Bargain hunters will be asked for sealed bids. Nearby residents hope a new owner will help their Rowlett neighborhood get back to normal. Tracy,
okay.
John.
Robert, thank you very much.
Darlie Routier secretly took a lie detector test last year before the murder trial that sentenced her to death. Its results were never made public. Defense attorneys usually don't hesitate to release a polygraph test when it's inconclusive or confirms their clients are telling the truth. Bill Parker, a private investigator and polygraph examiner who consulted for Rowlett police on the case, says the covert test probably indicates Routier flunked.
I believe that logic would dictate to us that had she done well on any
any of the issues in the polygraph examination, we would have all heard about it long before now.
While Routier prepares for her appeal on Texas death row for women, her mother and family campaigns to clear her.
She wanted to take a polygraph. She wanted to do hypnosis.
Did she ever take a polygraph?
Oh, she never took a polygraph.
But in fact, Routier's court-appointed attorney obtained a sealed motion for a polygraph shortly before jury selection began. The judge ordered the Dallas County Jail to allow the polygraph test without the knowledge of the district attorney's office. According to jail records, on Friday, October 4th, during the afternoon, Routier was moved from her cell in the Lou Sterrett Justice Center through the basement sally port into a room at the Crowley Courts building. It was in there that she was given a polygraph exam, which lasted 6 hours. Routier's mother met with her daughter within minutes of finishing the polygraph.
Wouldn't she have told you that she
I believe she would have, yes.
And why don't you think she did?
I don't know.
Routier's mother says Doug Parks, the court-appointed lawyer at the time, did not tell the family about the polygraph. Parks declined to discuss the polygraph, citing attorney-client privilege. Parks filed this bill with Dallas County 4 days after the polygraph, requesting a $1,000 payment for 5 hours of confidential consultation. In a follow-up letter on the bill to the county auditor, Parks wrote, "This is still a sensitive issue, and identification of the consultant would violate an attorney-client privilege." Under a recent court ruling, polygraph evidence is not always inadmissible in court. Investigator Bill Parker says if Darlie Routier truthfully answered the questions about the murder of her sons, then she should authorize the release of her polygraph test charts and results. Robert Riggs, Channel 8 News.
Become a psychotic.
While awaiting her punishment on Texas death row for women, Darlie Routier drew this crude sketch in an effort to prove she didn't stab her 2 sons to death. Forensics and crime scene experts say it may support their case that Routier superficially cut her own throat to cover up the murders. Routier says she's innocent in a pamphlet titled, "In Her Own Words."
She's still coming up with different stories, and that's one of the reasons why she is so unbelievable, is because she keeps changing the facts of the story.
Patricia Springer has written a soon-to-be-released book about the murder case. She says there was no evidence that an intruder attacked Routier's 2 sons in their Rowlett home last year and then slashed their mother's throat. Although Routier was wearing a gold chain necklace at the time, prosecutors say there wasn't a scratch on it. On her drawing, Routier notes the cut was made right to left. Pathologists were unable to scientifically determine the direction of the cut. Routier has drawn 2 diagrams of the crime scene, but testified she suffered temporary amnesia and couldn't remember much about the attack. An investigator finds it unusual that Routier didn't draw eyes on the sketch of her face.
Eyes are the window to the soul. Maybe she didn't want, subconsciously, it made her not draw eyes on her sketch. But
she don't want anybody to look inside.
Yeah, and see the truth.
The murder has become a textbook case on teaching officers how to recognize a staged murder scene. The case remains of interest because it's so unbelievable that a mother could take the lives of her children.
They want to know what made her do it. They want to know what made her snap, if that's what she did, or what drove her to that point, because it is just so against human nature.
And will we ever know?
Not unless Darlie Routier decides to tell us.
Robert Riggs, Channel 8 News.
This is the News 8 Update.
The Dallas County District Attorney and the Sheriff's Department are investigating new allegations tonight made against convicted killer Darlie Routier. Details about a letter sent to the judge reviewing her murder trial tops tonight's update.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. Darlie Routier has been back in the Dallas County Jail for 2 months as a judge reviews the transcript of her murder trial. And the Rowlett woman was sentenced to death for killing her 5-year-old son, but discrepancies in the trial transcript could overturn her conviction. Tonight, Channel 8's Robert Riggs reports on allegations that Routier has threatened the court reporter.
Darlie Routier's chance of getting a new capital murder trial hinges on an unusual review of her court transcript. 7 days after District Judge Robert Francis ordered the independent comparison for accuracy, he received this letter from the Dallas County Jail. The letter was written anonymously by another inmate who claimed she overheard Routier making threats. The misspelled letter to Judge Francis states, "The court reporter's life is in jeopardy if you, the court, makes her verify the accuracy of the court records. If the accuracy is verified, it means Routier would not get a new trial. News 8 has learned that the intelligence unit from the Dallas County Sheriff's Department dusted the letter for fingerprints, traced its origin back to the jail here, but has been unable to determine who wrote it. The letter's author states, "I will testify to what I hear her say, but I am afraid she will find out it was me and have me killed. She has powerful people on the outside." The letter says that Routier talks to other inmates through electrical conduit which carries their voices between cells. They call the frequent conversations Darlie Live, according to the letter. The inmate's letter also alleges that Routier told another prisoner that she is getting off free on murdering her two sons. In reaction, a spokesman for Brian Pardo, the Waco business executive supporting Routier's appeal, says, "Don't you think it's strange that once Darlie Routier's case begins to unravel, that an anonymous inmate comes forward? It's ridiculous."
I didn't murder my children.
A jail official tells News 8 that Routier was also overheard discussing an escape attempt with a male inmate. Investigators are trying to determine if it was serious or if they were joking. Robert Riggs, Channel 8 News.
The jail has increased security measures in the wake of the alleged threat. Routier's trial transcript is being reviewed by an independent certified court reporter. If she cannot swear to its accuracy, Routier could get a new trial.